Okay.
Ooh.
And I have to kick off transcript. Start transcription. Start. Okay, we are recording, we are transcribing, and good afternoon, good morning, or good evening, and welcome to the Blurring the Lines podcast, coming to you via new medium, still over computers, but medium. And I am your host, Adam Bell. Joining me as always is my co-host, Peter Nikolaidis. How you doing, Peter?
That's great. How are you?
Oh, doing well. Doing well. You were kind of glitchy there for a second, but
Yep. Well, I haven't run a Google Meet in a browser in a long time, and it's just acting a little weird. So
yeah.
there you go.
It is kind of impressive, though, that Google, everything is written in a browser for their browser. So they make their browser do everything. We don't have a separate app for that. It is kind of impressive to be able to do that.
Yes. So today everybody gets the, resplendent view of my unfinished office because I can't change the background like you, because apparently Safari doesn't support the fancy visual effects.
Oh, you didn't use Chrome?
No, on my Mac right now, these days, Safari is my default browser. And that's mostly because when I receive a two-factor authentication code via email or messages, Safari can scan incoming mail and messages and autofill it, which is really, really nice. Although there are a number of things that the biggest problem I have with Safari is that 1Password is just really unreliable. And I am constantly having to disable and re-enable the extension for Safari.
Mm-hmm.
So it comes down to which is worse, having to copy and paste those codes or having to re-enable the extension all the time. So today it's having to copy and paste codes. So I'm using Safari.
Yeah, for me, I just suck it up with whatever problem I'm facing and live in Google to do it. Safari, my backup.
Yep, there you go. So what's happening? So why are we on Chrome today? Why are we on Google Meet? You're always on Chrome. Why are we on Google today instead of Zoom?
Yep, we are on Google today because this is a season of change, and I am cheap and did not feel like paying for Zoom, and I also didn't want to be limited to 40 minutes with you. I want to be able to talk even longer than that.
Very good. I mean, I'm pretty much the same way. Like, I first paid for Zoom during the pandemic, and because I was teaching yoga classes remotely via Zoom. And I, experimented with a number of different alternatives, and, Teams I didn't really look at the time, but there were just, like Blue Jeans, and I don't even remember, it was Jitsi. That was one of them. Jitsi was I think it was a free thing, but you needed a host. So at the time I had, that $5,000 Amazon AWS startup cred. So I just spun up an AWS instance and ran my own Jitsi server and stuff. But then Zoom rapidly just took over the teleconferencing sphere. So I was like, you know what? It's probably worth the $100 or $120 a year or whatever it was. So I paid it, and it was great, and it worked great. But I see that you're learning from me and channeling your inner cheap, and not paying for something. Because I mean, let's be honest, $100 a year, $120 a year, it's not a ton, right? It's not a lot, but given how much we're charging our subscribers for the podcast, I think it's fair for us to spend $0 on Zoom at this point. So, as your CFO, I approve that. For the CFO of the Blurring the Lines podcast. Did you know that I got that promotion? I don't know if you were aware of that.
Yeah. I mean, I know this year we doubled our salaries.
We move fast in this industry, so I'm sorry if you didn't get the memo. I'm glad you seem to be taking it well, though. You're not like taking bets for us.
Yeah. Well, and in all fairness, I am paying for Google Workspace, so we're not getting it for free, but free. But
we could use Teams, right?
Yeah. Well, and if I wanted to use Teams, I don't know if Teams is. I guess can you do Teams for free? I don't even know, because I've had a paid subscription for so long. I don't know.
Pretty sure. I don't know if you can do Teams meetings and stuff for free, but there's definitely a free offering, because every time I sign in, it's like, it's hilarious. My Teams, I haven't, I wouldn't say I don't know how. I haven't bothered looking. My Teams program, when I open it, it has like 5 accounts
Yeah.
going back like 3 different companies. It's like, do you want to be this? I'm like, no, I haven't worked there in 5 years. Do you want to be this? Nope, they got acquired. Nope, that's not a client of mine anymore. But my live.com is always an option to
Oh yeah.
join.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't surprise me if like you can't host meetings for free, but you can join them or something. I don't know though. It's quite possible it just does everything, because we know Microsoft does love to give away things for free to kill competition, even if they're not competition. They just
Yeah.
love to kill other products,
Yeah. So, well, and it was a good change, and so far I mean, I think that we'll do some tweaking, and I don't know that friend of the show Scott Wilsey will be completely fond of our audio this time around, but
I can assure you that he will not. In fact, I could text him right now and invite him into the call, and he could complain about it.
yeah, he's got to find himself a baby to punch. Man, I got to punch a baby.
Well, actually, we used to on the Speeding in Reverse podcast, or maybe it was, no, it probably was Pocket Size podcast. We would talk about how we would get so angry we were going to go and kick the neighbor's dog, which is something that neither Scott nor I would ever really do. But
Right.
we got some feedback from that saying, "Oh, you shouldn't talk about that." And I was just like, "Fine, we will not say we're going to kick the neighbor's dog. We're going to go get pugilistic on the proximate residence canine." And that became our slogan for a long time. So
Yeah. Well, and we wouldn't actually punch a baby either. That would.
What if it was baby Hitler?
Yeah. I mean, I don't. Yeah.
Tough call, isn't it?
Yeah. Tough call.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so one of the things, so I was looking at Google, and one of the things that I was curious about, because, more and more of my clients have moved from Google to Microsoft 365. The cost of the offering, Microsoft has actually made it a little bit cheaper than Google when you just get it, and you also don't get the local application. But if you're a true Google person, you could use everything in the cloud, and you don't need the local application. But I have found that I still have to have the local application to do my job sometimes, because it's faster and cleaner to clean up a spreadsheet locally than it is in the cloud. Now, I could argue the other side of it too, where I love dropping a spreadsheet into Google Sheets and it converts it into something I can quickly manipulate.
Yep.
So I was curious, what do you, and maybe you looked it up recently, what percentage of the market share would you say is Microsoft 365, and what is Google Workspace? Just take a guess.
Hold that thought. I don't know.
You don't know.
But if I had to guess, I would guess that Microsoft has a majority over Google, or at least a plurality. More. Microsoft has more.
Microsoft has more. So I would have guessed the same based on the activity that I have done with my clients and migrating them in and out. So Google Workspace is holding 50% of the market compared to Microsoft 365's 45% share. Well, I was wrong too, because I thought the same thing. But I wonder, of course, that's not slicing and dicing. We're talking, if we were, I would almost be certain that the enterprise space companies 500 employees or more are majority Microsoft because of.
I would certainly guess that.
Yeah, that'd be my guess. And small businesses, I think, would tend to go with Google because of, ease of
Well,
use. And
so I definitely agree it's ease of use. I don't know that most small business decision makers that I have encountered would know that off the top of their head, right? It used to be cheaper for sure. Like when they first did it, like I had a free, I ran Paradigm on Google for years and it was free for a long time.
Yeah.
And then they gradually started to ramp up the prices. And now it's about the same, I think, isn't it? I think it's pretty close, but
Pretty
Microsoft, they give you the full suite of desktop apps and, you tend to get more space with OneDrive.
Actually, you get more with Google.
Oh, do you now?
Yeah. I've got, in my Google Drive, I have available to me 10 terabytes of storage, and I pay for 2 users in my Google Workspace.
Huh. Okay. Something's changed since I looked at it last time.
Yeah. Where Microsoft is, there's 2 terabytes. So same scenario, 2 users, each user gets 1 terabyte in OneDrive.
Yep.
And then they get so much SharePoint space.
SharePoint, exactly. Yeah, I was going to ask about that.
But with Google, they don't care where you put it. They give you 10 terabytes no matter what. You could have 10 terabytes in email.
I was going to say that but Microsoft separates that, right? Your email, your Outlook storage space is not the same as your SharePoint or OneDrive space.
Right. You're right. Google does such a great job with storage and storage access from no matter what Google part of the ecosphere you're living in my opinion.
Yep. I agree. I agree. It's like, I still keep my Microsoft Direct Access Action Pack around just because it's, don't tell them, cough, but it's cheaper to license all of the copies of things that I use. And it's not as much anymore, but like I used to have lots of computers running, licensed software with that. I was like, yeah, that's kind of cool. Of course, I'm probably violating some kind of license agreement by even just talking about that. But
well, I don't think so because you are an integrator. You are somebody who is going to recommend to somebody else to buy Microsoft, and you're going to be helping somebody do that. So it's kind of still, I think it still fits the spirit of what they want. They want people like you to know how to use their product and how to implement it. So.
And it's not like I'm giving it out to like every Joe on the street, because I used to have, back in the days, like 20 some odd years ago, I had a competitor in the same town, and they were just running around deploying their MSDN licenses of things at their customer sites
and charging the customer for it.
Oh, but charging it, but less. They were giving you a super discount.
So
instead of paying $100 a seat, we'll only charge you $50 a seat. Look at these great savings that we can get you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they went out of business.
Yeah. Well, and I've never used those licenses for anything other than internal use.
Yeah.
And just because it's a good idea. It's not worth trying to do something tricky and then getting audited and then trying to cover it up.
Yeah. I know plenty of people who've gotten away with that. So, but no, I was thinking about that too, though. The Microsoft Action Packs includes a bunch of Azure subscriptions and stuff too. Now, I played with that like a year ago, and they said my Azure credits expired after 90 days. And I was disappointed because I still have an AWS playground. And you can spin up stuff in their free tier, but eventually that free tier expires, right? And so I was like, well, if I'm already paying, because the Action Pack's like $500 a year, right? And for what you get, it's a pretty good deal. You get a bunch of licenses of Office, Windows, and then you throw on the Azure credits. But those Azure credits of mine just expired after, I think it was like 90 days. And I renewed it again this year because I renewed it. And I don't see any expiration on that. I don't see where it says it's only good for 90 days, but we'll see.
And I remember that too. And it was it wasn't until I applied the Azure credits that it told me that they were only good for 90 days. And I haven't, because I actually just renewed mine. Mine came up in December, so I just renewed mine, and it's not called Action Pack anymore. They changed the name.
Yeah.
And it went down in price by $100, which
mine. So something changed, because I renewed mine in September, and I'm pretty sure it was still the Action Pack, and it definitely did not go down in price.
Yeah. So they changed the name, and I was concerned that it was going to be more or less, but it's got everything in there, so it works for me.
That's cool. I decided I needed a change of venue.
You needed to be in my living room.
I'm in the cabin looking across. We are here today together in a cozy Christmas cabin.
So one of the things that we were talking about before we started was the differences between Slack and Teams chat.
Which is very relevant.
Yeah. And it's funny. We probably talked about this 5 years ago. So it's probably long in the archives of blurring the lines of how Slack and Teams are going to replace email and the pros and cons of that. But you were just talking about how Slack is killing you to 1 year of history.
Well, less, actually. So here's the thing. I've been a Slack user for several years now. I think I was not an early adopter, right? Unless you say, like, I used IRC back in the 90s, right? Slack is really like glorified IRC. But I maintain a number of Slack channels, and I, work with a number of clients in Slack, and I'm, lots of stuff out there. Like I get a lot of threat intel groups I'm in are in Slack. Information sharing groups are in Slack. But I also, a lot of those seem to be moving more towards Discord, but those that have been in Slack for a long time stay there because, there's still a good free offering. And as far as usability of the product goes, Slack is really good. I think I'm getting to the point where I'm just as comfortable using Discord as I am with Slack. But out of the three, well, we'll say four, if you include Google Chat, Google Chat, which is now part of Gmail because they want everybody in Gmail, right? Discord, Slack, and Teams. I think Teams is pretty much the worst. Maybe Google Chat is, there's some problems with it. I definitely have some issues with it, but Teams and Google are my least favorite out of those four, right? I would take Slack or Discord any day given a choice. Enterprise license agreement and privacy and data retention rules aside, right? If we're just talking about usability, right? So I work with an org that runs on Slack. They've got like half a dozen users. And the owner of the company was recently saying, hey, maybe we should switch to Teams. And I was like, well, let's look at the features that you use. And other than just collaborating, sharing links and sharing documents, the one big thing they do is they subscribe to get new ticket alerts. They have an integration. Now, Slack will integrate via API with all sorts of things. So if you're using Jira or ServiceNow or whatnot, you can stick notifications inside Slack, and they'll do that with Teams too. Well, this company just uses RSS. So really simple syndication. When there's a new ticket, it shows up in the RSS feed. Boom, make a Slack, post a Slack message. And Slack has a command built in. It's /feed. So if you're a Slack user and you didn't know that, if you just type /feed in any channel, it'll tell you how you can subscribe to any open RSS feed. So I said, well, you need to reproduce that functionality. So let's look at what you can do for Teams. Well, Teams, there's an app for that. So there's a Teams app store. And within the Teams app store, there's an app called RSS. And I said, well, let's try it out. And the vast majority of the reviews are 1 star. And it was like 73%. Because it just does not work.
No.
Yes, which I confirmed, right? So I set up a subscription, and I was like, give me the RSS feed from Slack. So go into Slack, type /feed list. Boom, here's the RSS link. Great, copy, paste that into the RSS app, post a new item. Yep, new item is there. Check the feed. Teams does nothing. All right. Well, as a paid Teams subscriber or paid Office subscriber, you have Power Apps, Microsoft Power Automate. So let's just make up a flow, right? So we put that in. There's a thing for RSS. So what's the trigger? RSS. What's the, you put in the URL of the feed and you say, what do you want? Whenever a new item is published? Yes, that's the trigger. Great. What do you want to do? Action. Post a message to Teams, built right in. No surprise. Great. Make your team, make your channel, decide which one you want to use it. Boom, and then drag and drop the pieces that you want. So feed title, maybe the feed link and the body of the message, right? Boom, put it there. Test the feed. Bing, new message pops up. That's great. Okay, flow, run automatically. Run on your schedule every 5 minutes, whatever. Never does anything. Doesn't work at all. Nothing. Not a single time. And but here's the good thing. Microsoft Copilot is integrated into Microsoft Power Apps now. So I said, well, Power Apps, talk to me here. Copilot, what's the problem? Check your RSS feed. Yep, did that. Okay, check to make sure that, it's like all basic troubleshooting 101. It's reading the first knowledge base article just like a first level technician. It's like, yeah, so that's 2 strikes against Teams. Can't do that. So it's like, yeah, maybe you have to suck it up and pay if you really want to retain that data. But that's what triggered this, is because Slack, they cut off the period a while ago. They said if you're not a paid subscription anymore, you can only go back, I think, like 60 days or something like that in your history. They're still keeping it, and you can pay for it, and you'll get all your history back.
That's nice.
But starting soon, that's not the case anymore. And if you're not paying for it, they're not keeping it past 1 year. And that's what triggered this conversation. So, it's like, okay, it was a free product, but either you like it enough to pay for it, or, or you don't. So,
I wonder, one of the problems long term with maintaining an email server. I mean, you and I both maintained email servers back in the day.
Painful. Painful.
Is storage, because users don't want to get rid of any attachments or anything like that. Is using these things like Slack or Teams, that those files that have the garbage, they're really garbage. They're transactional for one little thing that you've done. I sent you a screenshot of something you and I were working on. I'll probably never need that screenshot again, or we'll never need to refer to it again. And all that stuff is now no longer being used in email. I wonder if that's adding some efficiencies to the messaging platform data storage.
Maybe, but I assure you that spam and phishing is more than making up for that savings.
Yeah. But keeping having to deal with users and say, oh, well, you're at 50 gig in your inbox, you can't save anymore. I saved, with Sublime in my Google, of course, I had, when I had everybody in there, I had 80 terabytes of storage available to me. But I have 16 years in storage in my Google, and I have I don't know, it's like 78 gig. I mean, that's all, and that includes my drive and photos and everything.
Yep. I had email. I started keeping an archive of my email in the early 2000s. And every year I would burn them to a CD, something like that.
I did too.
I have no idea where those discs went. I have absolutely no idea. There's probably a lot of real good dirt out there on me somewhere in a landfill. I hope. Just in a landfill.
You see you can't see them. There's a pile of DVDs here. I bet there's
incriminating evidence.
There are PSTs in there somewhere.
Those were the days.
So let's see here. So if you know anything about this, we can talk about it. If you don't, then we won't. Power BI. Have you spent much time with that?
Negative.
Yeah, me neither. But I have spent time with its competitor, Bright Gauge, and it's grabbing a lot of things and pulling them in there. But I'm finding more and more of Power BI being a tool that is useful for getting, data analytics. Well, getting data for your team based on things that you have in Microsoft.
Mm-hmm.
Although I found a really big dumb thing with Power BI.
Big dumb thing with Microsoft.
Big
Really?
dumb thing with Microsoft, yeah. So this business analyst for one of my clients is using Power BI, and he is taking reports that he's received, he's putting them in his OneDrive, and then he is going into Power BI and then building charts based on this data.
Okay.
By default, Power BI puts the path of OneDrive, C:user, the path of OneDrive in there. And they won't update. These are cloud documents. They won't update unless you manually update them. So you have to, when you're building Power BI, you have to make sure you put the OneDrive path, and then it'll update real time anytime somebody accesses it. And so now this business analyst, he's coming to me saying, look, I've got all these tables and all this data, and I need a data gateway to make it sync. I'm like, no, you need to go chart by chart and update it to a URL instead of a UNC path, and that'll fix your problem. And it's the right thing to do.
That just sounds painful.
Yeah, but that's definitely a first world problem.
So what is Power BI? Is it just like Excel on steroids? Is it just Excel? I mean, look what it sounds, because you make charts in Excel.
So it makes dashboards. So so you can make the charts. I mean, we talked about a little while ago how using pivot tables and converting data into you can make some nice charts. But this will take it'll take spreadsheets that you've made, but it'll also pull databases. So you got a SQL database that does a job.
Yep.
You can turn around with Power BI, and you would need a gateway for that, a local gateway. So I don't know, you name a SQL database that you use for an application. Let's say that it's you could even do like ECW, ECW, eClinical Works. It's a client database, but it's a SQL backend. You could query the SQL backend for data that you wanted to pull and present. That's probably not a good one because that's PCI data or patient information, PII. You wouldn't want to just
But you can, like, Excel also has like ODBC connectors and stuff. So you can write SQL queries directly into Excel when you have connectors there too. I'm not saying, I'm this is tongue in cheek. I'm saying, so wait, what does it do that Excel can't do? just joking. I get that, it's making dashboards, and I'm sure it's probably all web based and stuff. But, it's kind of funny because I think these days Excel is probably and Outlook, I think, is where I spend most of my time. Yeah, like Excel, Outlook, and a browser. Word has become like I'll open Word documents like maybe a couple times a week at this point. Yeah.
I mean, unless I'm writing a how-to, I just don't get into Word.
Even if I do, because I start brainstorming and I start making my notes in Notion or Apple Notes. And then, I'll add a little bit of formatting, and then I just kind of like stay there. But as I start writing, the deeper I go into writing in Notion, though, every time I do it, I keep on telling myself, I really should be doing this in Word. This really should be a Word doc. But I don't want to change it over because, I don't think Word, I don't remember. It probably would preserve most of the formatting. But eventually, if I wanted to take it back to Word or to a Notion or Markdown format, I'm going to have to probably lose all that and redo it from scratch again.
Yeah. Well,
but now I want to test. So, dear listener, please hold. And again, caveat, I'm on a Mac, so that might affect, if I did this on Windows, it might act differently.
Okay. So while you're doing that, I'll talk about
entertain us.
Yeah. Entertain us. So one of the things that I really like about Google is so if I'm working on a file, if I am working on a Word document, but it's most of the time it's in spreadsheets, and I do a lot of inventory for my clients, and this is your workstation inventory, this is your email license inventory, this is whatever, because they're caring about what they're paying for and who it's for. And the good thing is once I have manipulated a sheet and made it what I want in Google, I could say file, email this file, and I could email it to anybody that I wanted, and it would either attach it as a file or send a link. If I don't, if I were sending it to somebody I was working with, I'd send a link rather than attaching the document.
Mm-hmm.
Microsoft doesn't do that. And if you want to send a file, even within your organization, unless you send the link via Teams, you've got to go to Outlook, and compose an email, locate the file in SharePoint if you want to send it that way. Like, why can't we? It's just a right click. I just want to right click and say send as a file. I mean, it's not a.
I've been having problems with, before I go into that though, I will say, actually, formatting was preserved really well. I copied and pasted out of Notion into Word, and then I cut and paste what was in Word back into a new Notion document, and it pretty much preserved everything. That's pretty nice.
That's some good HTML work there.
Yeah. So this morning I tried to share a spreadsheet with one of my clients, and I saved it, and I went into Outlook and I just clicked on the attach button, and it's like, hey, these are the documents that you've recently worked on. And right at the top of the sheet, right at the top of the list was that spreadsheet. So I clicked it, and it included a link to the document in my SharePoint.
Yeah.
In the company SharePoint, which my client does not have access to.
No.
He's like, it's prompting me for a login. I'm like, son of a, so I went to my file system and dragged and dropped the file into the email and sent that. That's all I wanted to do.
And so should it.
Ta-da.
Ta-da. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's part of, I mean, as both of us are very much involved in security, the dilemma today is, what files does your organization have shared with people outside of your organization, and how do you audit that?
Yeah, that's a big one. that's a podcast series of its own. There's a lot.
And it's not impossible to do. It's just there's no great way to audit that. And I mean, in the larger the organization is, how much of it is important. And one of the things that you can do, and we've done, is all links shared outside of the company, if we allow that, expire after, say, 30 days. And then they come back and like, I can't access that file anymore. Well, you're gonna have to reshare it. I gotta reshare? Yes, this is a first world problem, I promise you.
I gotta reshare. Life is rough.
So, well, cool. So then we all have new iPhones now. Are we all in the iPhone 16
Pro camp? Yes.
Get along, gang.
We are here indeed. Yeah, I did. Essentially, I made several purchases based on fear of impending tariffs driving prices through the roof. The good news is most of them are also quality of life upgrades. So my MacBook Pro is way faster than my MacBook Air.
You got a Pro?
I got a Pro. Yeah.
Welcome to the gang.
Welcome back. Yes. I mean, I've had them before, right? But I really loved portability and the lightweight factor. I like that a lot. But I decided, because like, again, my use case was ridiculously simple. Trying to play a web-based game recording a conversation in a Discord audio chat. And those three things would bring this thing to its knees.
Mm-hmm.
And so now I upgraded from the MacBook Air M2 processor to the MacBook Pro with the M4 Pro processor.
Mm-hmm.
And it is way better. I can, it's still not like if I run Baldur's Gate 3 on my 4K monitor in max resolution, it's still choppy.
Mm-hmm.
But I can run it as a way higher resolution than I could on the MacBook Air. So there you go.
So you have the M4
Pro.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
M4
I've got
Pro.
Mine has got the M2 Max chip, but mine's a 2023 model.
Right. But you have a Max, and I don't remember the differences in all of those, but you had an M2 Max versus I had an M2. And again, I don't remember the underlying differences besides the processor in a MacBook Air versus a Pro. So I had a 2022 M2 Air. You have a 2023 M2 Max Pro. So there's a lot of differences between those. So.
Yeah, I have never done anything that has made the device choke.
Yep.
I mean, now the fan will kick on, so the CPU kicks up so that it's working harder.
Yep.
But I've never choked it. I mean, I did just buy a new NUC for my. So I don't know what's wrong with me. I have to have I like my Mac, but I still have to have a Windows device in-house. And so I've got this desk has my Mac, my seated desk has my Windows, and my NUC has, it's got a problem. It's got an HDMI problem. And from time to time, HDMI will go out, and there's nothing you can do to get the second monitor back except for shutting it off and turning it back on. There have been firmware updates, but it's now a 2019 i3 10th gen. If it's not fixed by now, it's not going to be fixed.
Yeah.
So I bought a new one, an i7 this time, and so it'll sit there and do its little NUC work. But
NUC work. Well, I've got so in each of my homes, I have an old HP. Whatever their ProBook, HP ProBook running an i7 processor. They're like 7 years old though. They're 7 or 8 year old boxes, but they make perfectly serviceable, Linux stations.
Oh yeah.
And I use them as my VPN exit nodes. We talked about this on the Friends with Brews podcast last week also. So I use them essentially. I have found that there are cases where you want VPNs, not just for anonymity, but I have found now that a case where I can use a VPN for performance, and I'll put a pin in that. I'll get back to that one. For performance increase, not decrease.
Yeah.
But I have, in each of my locations, I have these running as tailscale nodes. So they give me remote access into my home networks, which is pretty slick. Also, I have about a year and a half old Windows laptop, which I haven't even powered on in months. And at my place in Boston, I have a small NUC-like box. It's one of those old Datto Alto 1000s, second generation. That runs my Foundry virtual tabletop for my Sunday night gaming sessions. So I run that as a little server there. The performance is better, and it's cheaper than paying for a decent beefy AWS instance. So that's what I do with that. But back to that pin. So at my place in Vermont, my ISP seems to be doing something that is throttling connections. And a lot of websites will sometimes take like 10 seconds to load. It's just that initial loading though. And other like download speeds super fast, but there's this latency. It's almost like I'm being on satellite. It's like it waits, wait. And I thought there was a problem with the web server, and nope. And then I went back home. It's working just fine. It's like, what is going on? So today I turned on my VPN, and all of the pages that were loading in 10 seconds or more take under a second to load.
Huh.
So by bypassing that, they've got to be doing something that's doing packet inspection or some kind of traffic inspection that's slowing it down. Because when I turn the VPN on, lightning fast. And I haven't experienced that before.
So what's that called? Comcast. Smart
Cash flow?
No, they're doing exactly what you're thinking. They are doing a packet inspection at the firewall. They're doing they're proxying your website and reviewing it, and we've had problems with that. Smart screen,
that's a security filter in Edge.
Yeah,
or Windows.
Yeah. But yeah, Comcast is doing that. So your provider may be doing that to you.
That's what I figured. They've got to be doing some kind of packet inspection. But when I enable the VPN, boom, just goes. So, and here's the thing though, it's like this is happening on TLS encrypted websites, right? And I've never accepted a certificate from my ISP, so they shouldn't be, they can't be breaking into those packets and checking what's going on there. So I'm not sure exactly what's happening. But I do know that by enabling my NordVPN account, which I inherited after Atlas VPN got bought by them, it works fine. So.
Yeah. So talking about VPN, which is kind of VPN. So we talked about Splashtop our last episode in November with Scott, and one of the things that I had a question about was it was a bummer because you could only do 10 computers, and I was like, oh, I've got to narrow down which 10 computers I want accessible in Splashtop. I would actually pay for more if I could, but I was going to have to have a second account because I could only do 10.
Yep.
Well, as I approached my 10th one, they're like, you can buy more licenses for more computers. I'm like, thank you for making this easy to buy your product.
Isn't it nice when companies, you work with companies and they do that,
Yeah. Well, and yeah, I get it. I mean, I do get it why, an enterprise business. So I have this client and they have clients who work with them, and, they want to buy service from us. Their clients want to buy service through us. Well, no, your clients are going to have a separate contract in order to do business with us. And we really don't want to do business with them because they're onesie twosies where, you're a big organization, and, so I'm sitting on the other side of that saying, no, we don't want to do business with your onesie twosies. Why don't you just resell our business to they're your clients? I mean, tell them if they want this service, upcharge them 30%. But, so all that to say, I can see how an organization doesn't make it easy to buy sometimes because it doesn't fit their business sales model.
Yep. In the last year and a half, I've definitely I've had a lot more exposure to that, working with large MSPs and stuff. So I can appreciate that. I definitely can understand. There are, and when you work with a large company, you understand, and I've seem to be having this conversation more and more everywhere I go. At the top, they have different priorities, and you being lower down may not always see those priorities. So, the assumption, and it's easy to make when you're not at the top, when you don't have the same visibility, is, oh, those people up top are morons.
Yeah.
They just have different priorities. Okay, well, sorry. They have different priorities.
Yeah.
Maybe they are morons. That's hard to say, right?
They could be morons.
But, some of these morons are driving, billions of dollars a year, programs and companies and stuff. So they got to be doing something right.
Yeah. So. Well, it really is a mindset, and it's a paradigm. It's because somebody who thinks about the small business and cares about the small business, they are, let's say that they're charging $400 a month for a service that costs them $200. They think that they're making 50% profitability, and the 50% profitability is what they're looking at. They're looking at, we are making good money on this client. Well, the larger organization says, we are making $200 on this client. That's $2,400 a year. That should be the monthly recurring minimum that we have across the board. And so if 2,400 makes 1,200, you're 200. We don't care about that 200, where that whole shift of like, it's not profitable. Oh, yes, it is. We're making 50% margin on that. It's not profitable to us as an organization.
Exactly. In the grand scheme of things, it's just not, so again, different priorities. To a small business, if you're a one-man show, great, you're $200 a month, I'll take it, but if you're a multi-billion dollar, $200, that doesn't even show up, It's like, huh?
Yeah, let's just cut those bottom, and they're usually, the volume is much higher of those. You could have 100 of those clients and them not equal to one of the lowest level of what you want.
So there you go.
We're getting old and wise, Peter.
Oh, getting old.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Well, yeah. What else we got? Anything?
Well, I think we're approaching the top of the hour.
All right, I've got a nifty.
Nifty. Tell me, what's nifty?
It's not as nifty as it could be.
Okay.
It could be nifty. Ooh, I almost dropped my
microphone. Could be niftier.
It could be niftier. Yes, it could be niftier. So what I have is a Sodi robot stand for iPhone. It's a MagSafe stand, and it can attach to the back of my monitor, and it is attached. So it's like a desk view camera, and that's how I'm looking. You're looking at me now through my iPhone camera. It also can I can take it off there and stick it on the desk, and it can be a desk stand for the iPhone too. That's kind of cool. And like I said, it's MagSafe. That's kind of cool. Why is it almost nifty and not genuinely nifty, you might ask?
Yeah, why?
I'm so glad you asked, and I'm going to tell you right now. It doesn't charge. There's no charger built into this MagSafe stand, and I have not been able to find any front-facing, main camera facing MagSafe charging units that will attach to a monitor. Now, I have one for my car, which you plug the USB-C charger right into the MagSafe, the adapter, and it'll charge the phone. But again, the screen faces you there. I have another one where I have that, and it is a MagSafe charger, and it is designed to go onto the back of a monitor or the back of a laptop. But again, the screen faces you. I can't find any where the screen faces away, where the camera faces you, and it charges. And I don't understand.
Yeah.
Like, can we make this? Maybe we should start making this. I don't know how we do. Do you have contacts in China? Let's just make this.
Oh, so I actually meant to talk about this when we were talking about Apples and our iPhones, and I do not know why my phone will not make phone calls. I don't do the hey ding dong. I just use the button on the side when I want to engage Siri. So I press the button because I don't want to say that anywhere, and I don't want other people saying it and activating my phone. So I do the button. I cannot say, hey, ding dong, call Peter the Greek. It will say, looking up contact, here's Peter's contact information. No, call Peter. Nothing happens. And, I'm like, sometimes I used to have to say it really fast. I couldn't say, call Peter Nikolaidis. If I did that, it would say calling,
Who?
who? Yeah. Who do you want to call? But so I turned Apple Intelligence off, and it just started working again. I mean, and I didn't change my cadence or anything, but it started working. But I wasn't all that thrilled with the Apple Intelligence anyway. I don't care about my text messages being summarized. My text messages aren't very big.
I've been I'm being entertained by text messages being summarized. Although something that I swear I thought Siri could read my emails to me, but apparently it couldn't. Or it lost that feature.
It can't read messages anymore to you either. Because I was like, hey, read my message.
But it could read notifications. And now I think it can read messages now. But this morning when I told it read me my emails, or do I have new emails, it would read me the AI summary of the emails. Which I actually found useful, right? For long emails, that was okay. But it would be really nice if I could be very granular. And again, maybe it is, and we just haven't figured out how to do it, right? This is where we need friend of the show, Scott Wilsey, to come in and give us a tutorial, tell us how to say, "Hey Siri." But it would be really nice if I could say, summarize my emails, or read that email to me, or whatnot. But I thought that it used to be able to say, I definitely used to be able to tell it, get my messages. I definitely would used to be able to tell it, but I haven't tried that recently. What I've been saying is, do I have any notifications? Although no, you know what? In iOS 18 and maybe 18.1, I did say get my messages, and it said you'll have to download an app for that.
Yeah,
I do remember that. And I was like, yeah, I have one. It's called Messages.
Yeah, you already have Apple Intelligence in there, monitoring it, reading it. You can do it. I promise.
So no, you can't.
No.
All right. Should we wrap it up?
Yes, sir. Let's wrap her up.
Okay. Well, if you want to get a hold of us, dear listener, you already know how to, but I'll tell you again. blurringthelinespodcast.com, where you can find us. I believe Adam is still on Twitter.
Yeah, I still have the Twit account, but I'm just RR Lavender Farm now.
RR Lavender Farm. Okay. Well, I'm still on Mastodon at Nikolaidis at infosec.exchange, but more recently, I am at peternikoladis.com on Blue Sky. And I resisted going to Blue Sky for the longest time because I knew that Jack Dorsey was the founder, and I just didn't want to give him the time of day, let alone any more of my attention. But now that he's no longer involved, all of the raving that I've been hearing people say about how good Blue Sky is, it's like Twitter in the early 2000s and stuff. They're right. It's pretty cool. and being able to pick your own name based on a DNS entry on a domain name you own, that's awesome. So yeah, so that's pretty slick. So I recommend Blue Sky, along with the whole blue move away from ex-MAGA, Truth Social Junior there. I'm totally down with that. So you can find me at Peter Nikolaidis on Blue Sky. I will share too. I paused my LinkedIn account. I don't know if you're aware, you can hibernate your LinkedIn account.
No.
I was getting nothing but scams and recruiters, mostly for, well, not mostly, completely all for jobs I'm not interested in. And I started looking at it, and I just said, you know what? I'm just going to deactivate it and see what happens. So just like I did with my Facebook, I went through great lengths to actually delete my Facebook account. And I am sure that it's still out there somehow. And if I tried, I could get it back. But I just hibernated my LinkedIn account, and I was like, I'm just going to just forget about this for a while and see how that goes. So I just don't need to get, emails and notifications for, people saying, hey, join my forum. Hey, can we connect for a minute? Hey, can you blah, blah, blah. Hey, I think you'd be a good match for this job that pays about, $100,000 a year less than what you make. What do you think? Stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, and I used to, I actually forgot about it till you mentioned it. I used to like Tumblr.
Yeah. A Tumblelog.
Yeah, because I subscribed to, or I followed some people, artsy people. So I was looking
Mhm.
for photography ideas, and that was pretty cool. But then I think porn came in, and I was like, I can't avoid it, so I'm just not going to go there.
Well, there you go. I thought they cleaned that up. Didn't
I
didn't
think they did.
remember.
I think they did clean it up. I just never went back.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. 'Cause I mean, I wanted to look for art and show some, I want to see something funny, Hello Kitty, and
Not that kind of kitty.
not that kind of kitty.
Right. On that note, I think it's time to hit the big red button.
I don't even know where it is here.
Bottom center right. Bottom center right. Well, that'll hang up. I don't know how to stop recording.
Recording. Stop recording. There we go. Stop.